All right, here we go. After you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Yes.
So, hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of Loading with Will and Finn. I guess by episode 8, hopefully you get the gist. Today's guest is a really good friend of ours, Michaela KEEFE. We've known her since high school. She's my girlfriend's best friend, and someone we really admire. She has a pretty incredible volleyball career that took her all the way to winning, 3 national championships?
3 national championships.
3 natties, guys.
She claimed 3 natties at Stanford, which is pretty badass, and Stanford's a pretty good school. So volleyball and just her life in general has taken her some pretty cool places, and met some really cool people. So we're just going to kind of explore that path all the way from high school and to now, and just see see what Michaela's big takeaways were. Yeah,
so we met in high school, but we kind of wanted to start a little bit further back in terms of Michaela's athletic career. So we kind of know that your parents are involved in sports, some of them in a professional manner. So why don't you start there?
Yeah, so, I grew up playing basically every sport imaginable. My dad and my mom both went to Stanford, and my mom played volleyball at Stanford, and my dad played basketball and actually volleyball also.
Dang.
Did he really?
He did.
I didn't know that.
2-sport athlete, yeah.
Mr. KEEFE.
No one knows about the volleyball
So
part.
impressive.
But, so they both played volleyball in college. My dad played basketball, and then after graduating in '92, my dad was a lottery pick and played.
Woo! What pick was he?
He was 9. He was 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
In the draft?
I didn't know that.
In the whole draft?
Yeah.
That's what a lottery pick means. Like you win bingo and get to draft this player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They did the lottery all the way back then?
Yeah, dude.
I didn't know that. Like for the first
for
round?
a very long time.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Damn, what a beast. I had no clue he was that high in the draft.
I know. I didn't either until I was like 10.
Subtle flex.
You're like, wow, my dad's kind of the shit. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he played, I think it was 11 years in the NBA. He started with the Hawks, went to the Utah Jazz. I was born in Utah, so that's that. And then he went to the Warriors for a few years. And then when he got old and tired, he went over to Europe to play in Spain for a few years. But I guess on the other side, my mom, after graduating Stanford, was a pro beach volleyball player and also played in the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta.
Wow. In Atlanta.
That's
as an indoor player.
So was that while he was with the Hawks?
Wow.
I think he was with the Hawks at that point.
That'd be convenient for dating.
I know that.
Like that would be kind of.
I think they were doing long distance because she had to train. She was training in Anaheim actually.
Sure.
Right.
So I think he was
that's
with
what
the
the
Hawks.
Olympic
She
Center
was in
is.
Anaheim.
Yeah.
Yep. So they did long distance for a while.
Man.
So your parents met. What year in college did they meet?
So they actually met as seniors in high school. They were both at. Have you guys heard of Junior Olympics?
Yeah, JOs.
It's like, yeah, exactly. They met at JOs, and my mom said the first time she saw my dad, she was just petrified of him. He was like this giant redhead.
Yeah. How tall is your dad, by the way, for people who don't know?
He's 6'9".
Yeah,
he's
massive.
He's a huge guy.
The Keefes don't come in small sizes, actually.
No, he used to have flaming red hair. Apparently, he was like super aggressive and like made really mean faces. And my mom was like,
like you would just walk around making mean
no,
faces?
when he played.
Oh, okay.
When he
Like
played.
intense.
Yes, intense faces. So they met. My mom wanted nothing to do with him. But when they got to Stanford, clearly things started to take a turn.
That Mr. Keefe charm wears off on you.
Yeah. So apparently the men's basketball team used to practice before the women's volleyball team in the same gym. And so my mom said that whenever she would be like watching the end of their practice before they were about to go on, he would always I think he tried extra hard in the sprints and would win when my mom was watching. So she said she liked that.
Get in better shape and show out for the league.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So you're and I guess taking a step back from that generation, all your siblings have become really good athletes as well, right?
Right.
That's right. So my twin sister Caitlin went to.
Shout out to Caitlin.
Yeah, shout out to Caitlin.
And Henry. Congrats to you guys.
They just got engaged. They're getting married. So that's pretty cool.
They're in New York right now. But yeah, so Caitlin and I both went to Stanford together, and we played on the women's volleyball team together. Won all of our natties together, which was awesome.
That is an incredible thing.
All of our natties. Every time.
It's a badass. Yeah.
Okay. Just so people don't know, Michaela and Caitlin are very, very humble by nature, and we're kind of pushing them to be a little less humble on this episode, just so they know what's
Thanks,
good.
Will. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of people get to win a national championship, and I don't know of anyone else that got to do it with a sibling. So
And 3 times.
yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, so Caitlin and I played volleyball together, and then my little brother James, shout out James, is a rising sophomore at Stanford as well, and he plays on the men's basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And then my baby sister, well, I guess she's not really a baby anymore. She's 6'2".
She's a big baby.
Yeah, she's 6'2", she's 16, and she actually just committed to Duke. So go Blue Devils.
Go Blue Devils.
Yeah, we're super excited for her. And
breaking the family mold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the first non-Stanford. How many generations back does the Stanford go? Is it like, did your grandparents go there?
No, so actually only 2, but like not only did my parents go there, but like tons of aunts and uncles and cousins.
Wow.
Also, fun fact, your mom's dad was in the NFL, right?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He was actually a 3-sport athlete at USC. He played basketball, football, and track.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Insanely athletic genes.
Yeah, this is a good gene pool. Henry and Caitlin are probably going to be a bunch of schlubs. You know what I mean? Like, Harvard and Stanford, both college athletes. Nothing special there.
No, nothing at all.
But that's really cool. But you mentioned that you've been playing every sport imaginable as a little kid. Like, what sports were that?
Yeah, so growing up, my parents were both very into, like, not having us specialize in one sport. They thought that was best for like developing athleticism and like not burning you out. So Caitlin and I started with soccer. Then our second sport was always basketball. We played basketball all the way through high school. We played club basketball. I was actually deciding at one point if I wanted to play basketball or volleyball in college.
Really?
So that was kind of a tough decision because I loved basketball.
So you kind of had the 2-sport option available to you.
Yeah,
if you really wanted to do it.
And then we also played, we ran track and cross country, and then I mentioned soccer, and we actually played a little bit of tennis and golf too.
Wow.
But yeah, so kind of all across.
Are you good at golf, or you just kind of like did it as a little kid?
No, I just did it as a little kid. I more did it for the candy. Like we went to golf camp at LA Country Club, and like if you do a good job, you get Jolly Ranchers. Nice. So that's all.
Every little kid's motivated.
Yeah, like after swim team, every practice they would give you 3 jelly beans, and I swear to you, every kid is swimming strictly for the jelly beans.
Exactly,
it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so at that age, what was your favorite sport to play? Was it volleyball? Or?
No, my favorite sport was actually never volleyball.
Really?
It was always basketball.
Okay.
It just growing up in LA, women's volleyball is so big and like there's a ton of talent around here. Whereas women's basketball is a little bit less popular, so I would have had to drive, maybe an hour, 2 hours every day to get to a really good women's basketball club. So that it made it easier to choose to specialize in volleyball.
Yeah, for those who don't know, if anyone's watching this from somewhere else, volleyball culture in LA is really cool. Like there's a Manhattan Beach tournament every year that it was supposed to be recently, wasn't it?
It's kind of like the mecca of beach volleyball down in
the Manhattan Beach 6-man is so cool. You have anywhere from young kids that are just competitive and really good to like professional athletes, right?
Yeah,
that are out there, and it's so cool. Huge crowds watching them play on the beach in Manhattan Beach.
Everyone dresses up.
Yeah,
costumes.
Everyone's in costume. It's a really cool,
it's a fun
unique
vibe.
culture.
And if I remember correctly, one of our friends' younger brothers named Nico Posavac, he plays libero at Princeton, made it to the finals in the Manhattan Beach 6-man with like his Loyola crew. I think they lost, but shout out to him. It sounded pretty cool that he made it that
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that tournament's super competitive.
That is not an easy feat.
No.
So that's really cool. Now, and another thing to lay out, there's like kind of 2 forms of volleyball here. You have some people do indoor, then I guess like you notice it a lot more, like other people go to the beach route, right?
Yeah, so I would say beach volleyball has definitely gotten bigger in recent years. So I think maybe 5 to 7 years ago it became an official NCAA sport.
Okay.
So I think that's drawn a lot of people to it because now you can get a scholarship and play at college level. And then I think it also just kind of opens up volleyball to maybe people that wouldn't have been able to play before just in terms of height. Because indoor volleyball, like I'm 6 feet tall and was the shortest hitter on my Stanford volleyball team.
Wow.
The shortest for my first 2 years.
How tall was everybody else?
So the tallest girl on our team was 6'8.5".
Woo! Who was that?
Moretta Lutz. She's playing in Korea right now professionally.
Nice.
Damn.
And then we also
6'8.5".
yeah,
That's
6'8" and a
a
half.
big woman.
Yes, and we also had two
Good for
girls
you.
who were 6'6".
Yeah.
6'6".
I'm curious. Your friends playing in Korea. Where is what like foreign leagues? I guess are the ones that people aspire to play in as professional volleyball players. Is it different for women and men as well?
Yeah, so it is different for women and men. I'm not as familiar with men, but for women, I know that. So Catherine Plummer, who is one of my teammates for the past 4 years, and she was the
Super badass.
National Player of the Year.
Wow.
Twice or three times. I should know this, but
Wow.
twice or three times, and she played her first year in Italy, so I think they're supposed to have one of the top leagues, and then I know Turkey might be number one. So I know Italy, I know Turkey. Women's volleyball is actually really big internationally. It's a bummer that the U.S. doesn't have.
Why do you think
Why do you think it hasn't caught on?
You know, I think they're trying to start one. I couldn't really tell you why they don't have one now. Like, they have the national team, and you know, they have kind of like the top team, and then like girls below that who are trying to be on the top team, but they just don't have a league, and I don't know why.
So how do all those people like spend their time in between Olympics? You know, for 4 years, if they're professional players, Olympic level players, like what do they do?
They just train.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, are a lot of our Olympic athletes probably playing professionally in Europe right now?
So they can play professionally in Europe maybe 1-2 years, kind of like year 1 or 2 in like the 4-year Olympic sequence, but like by kind of the 2 years right before the Olympics, they have to be in the U.S. training with the team like year round. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the level of preparation it takes to be one of those athletes. Like, what's the living like? You know, like do they pay you? Like, do you need sponsorship money? Do you need a second job? Like, how do they make a living?
So it really depends kind of on how good you are. But the best of the best, you know, can make 7 figures overseas.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, you know, obviously not like a MLB or NFL or NBA player,
that does the job though.
But still, like, really, really good money. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. Wow. That's really good. Now, do you think individually people could make more money doing beach? Because I just remember growing up, I knew like Carrie Walsh and like
right.
It was
those,
badass.
that
like,
tandem. Who's her counterpart?
Misty May.
Misty May.
How many gold medals they win?
So
2 or 3?
3.
Wow.
3.
Those guys are.
And
they're
Carrie,
so badass.
And Carrie's
like,
still going for a 4th.
They both live in Manhattan Beach, right?
Yeah.
I remember like they had star power to me as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was really cool watching.
Those are some of the coolest people to watch.
And they
every
had
summer
huge
Olympics.
sponsors. It's such like. How fast are you guys hitting that ball?
On the beach, it's definitely slower just because you can't jump as high.
Sure.
So it's like a pretty significant difference. But I mean, still hard. Still really hard.
Yeah, and you have to jump out of sand to go get it, which I feel like is its own.
I love playing it because it's so fun and it's such a great workout. Like, and
oh my gosh,
it's so fun to play beach volleyball.
Watching people know how like it's done though is like incredible.
Right, but
I get embarrassed playing.
We couldn't mess around
with
her. She would kill us. Like, obviously.
Fun story about that. I actually did one of their little training circuits at Stanford. Not even circuit, like literally one drill where they like threw a ball and like had me jump around to try to go catch it on the sand, and I like lasted it 10 times. I was like, this sucks. Like, it was awful. It's really tough. You guys are in incredible like shape. It's really cool. Didn't you just run 6 miles today?
I did.
Yeah, Claire told me about that earlier today. I'm like, that's absurd. God.
Running 6 miles. Wow.
Okay, cool.
It was hot, but we made it.
So I guess you started playing volleyball. How young?
I started playing for my school in 5th grade, and then started playing club in 7th grade, which was super late compared to everyone else.
Was that Sunshine?
That was Sunshine.
Was that with Claire?
No, Claire was on a different team.
Oh.
But no, yeah. I did play basketball with Claire in high school.
Right.
I've heard about Claire's basketball career.
Yeah.
Pretty epic.
Claire was a great teammate because, you know, there's always people on a basketball team who it's like shouldn't be shooting, but they just like chuck up threes like it never goes in. And like Claire knew like exactly what her role was. She was great at it.
She's a facilitator.
Like, a great teammate, like never turned over the ball. She was awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like Claire. Okay, so we kind of worked your way through high school, and I guess you're at the end of high school and you're looking at schools. Obviously, you've given us your family ties, and it sounds like Stanford's probably a big presence growing up. Are you looking at other schools? Where are you getting letters from? What are you kind of thinking about?
Yeah, so women's volleyball recruiting especially starts super young. So I started getting recruited my freshman year of high school.
Really?
Wow.
So what are the rules like?
He's
Because
so young.
we just had Bueno on a couple weeks ago, and he wasn't allowed to talk to people until January junior year of high school. So how are the rules so different?
Yeah, so the rules actually just changed so that now coaches can't talk directly to players until I believe it's summer going into junior year. But
Okay.
when I was in high school, you could start receiving letters, kind of phone calls, all of that when you started high school. So that's kind of when it started for me. And even though both of my parents went to Stanford, I wasn't set on it from the get-go. Just I kind of wanted to give myself a chance to explore.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Stanford is a great school and has a great volleyball team. So I wasn't sure, how good I would get in the next 3 years, whether or not I would be good enough to go there and play there. So I kept my options open. And then kind of working my way through high school, my sophomore year, I narrowed it down to Stanford, Berkeley, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, UCLA. I think those are my top choices.
Yeah.
And
Are those all the top volleyball schools, or are there some others that we're missing that you weren't looking into?
I think I wasn't looking into the top volleyball schools besides Stanford were Penn State and Texas, I would say, and Nebraska. I was, academics were always a priority for me, so I knew I wanted a balance. So that kind of helped me in my decision there.
Yeah.
It was also cool that Stanford was the only school kind of that. So if Caitlin, my twin sister, if she didn't go to Stanford, she was going to go to an Ivy.
Wow.
And I wasn't really looking at Ivies. I knew I wanted a bigger kind of volleyball school where I could get a full ride. So Stanford was the only school that if it worked out, we were both going to go to. So I think that helped a lot.
Cool, yeah.
That helped a lot in the decision.
At what point did you make that decision? You're like, yeah, Stanford's the move.
It was, I think, spring of my sophomore year.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
So pretty early, you guys already knew you were going to Stanford.
Yeah. And then you kind of verbally commit, and then we did our application. Like, the application process for recruiting is super weird. Like, we ended up doing the application from the year before we were going to be graduating high school. So we had it all in writing, like, at the end of our junior year.
You were there enrolled, basically.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
As long as we kept our grades up.
So, I'm going to backtrack to high school slightly, but we had a really cool relationship, and because you went to an all-girls school, we went to an all-guys school, and there's like some sort of symbiotic like sister school, brother school relationship between the two of them, Loyola and Marymount, right? And it was really fun because you and all your friends would come to like our basketball and volleyball games, watch, obviously Henry play, and we would come and watch your volleyball and basketball games too over at Marymount, and it was a lot of fun. So, like, in terms of like outlining some of the highlights of your high school volleyball career, you've already touched on how successful you were in college, and we'll get there, but what are some of your best memories of playing high school sports?
Yeah, I would say, I guess starting with volleyball, my high school volleyball team at Marymount was great. Like, we had a ton of athletes who went on to play Division I, D2, D3.
Talk about some of the girls, like, and where they went, like, because there was a lot of people who went to big time volleyball schools out of Marymount.
So my year, we had Hannah Klein, who was my setter, went and played at Notre Dame. Charlie Robinson played at UCSB, and she had a really successful career there in the middle and on the right side. We also had Morgan Williams, went to Fordham, I believe, and she was like, I think she leads their school in digs, the digs record.
Wow.
Really?
And was
That's so cool.
This year was their conference player of the year, which was amazing.
What conference are they in? Is that
no
Fordham? Is that the same league as Brandon's
Lafayette,
league?
yeah,
maybe.
The President's League?
Maybe. But yeah, so she played at Fordham.
Patriot League.
Lauren Gerbach played at Columbia for a year or two.
Yeah.
And then the year older than me, Mia Mason played beach volleyball at Arizona. Tyler Spriggs played indoor volleyball at Arizona. There's countless others.
So were you guys kind of like a LA powerhouse? Or were you kind of up there with Miracosta?
We always won our league, but Miracosta was always super competitive. Like, the girls volleyball in LA is just like so talented that like all the top teams have like a ton of D1 athletes.
Do you think it's better than the boys volleyball?
Well, it's tough because boys volleyball, it's kind of like California and then like a few other places, so it's like really concentrated here.
Right.
Whereas like women's volleyball is really big in the South,
Really?
like in the Midwest.
So you guys have more competition nationally.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like you're better.
Maybe I'm biased, but.
So did you guys ever win any big? You won your league. Did you win? Like, is there a CIF structure?
Yeah.
What's the structure like between CIFs?
Yeah. So we won our league several times, which was awesome. We never won CIF, but I think we ended up losing to Miracosta one year, maybe 2 years actually. Miracosta was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's CIF was definitely super competitive. I was bummed we never won. But I guess I'll take the natty over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, things shaped out okay. You guys bounced back.
Finn and I were on none of these teams, but now would be like a time to subtly flex. Our senior year, how many championships did Loyola?
7, I believe.
We won 7.
Speak for yourself.
Wow.
I was on the diving team.
Finn was on the diving team.
7 CIF?
We won 7 CIF titles across all sports our senior year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
So we're
pretty
using
wild.
the very liberal we in terms of like
the royal we,
associate-
as in we were elite,
Yeah.
as in we were friends with the people.
Associate-
They were really good. Like, yeah. So that was a lot of fun to have that last ride senior year.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, so working our way back into college now.
Sure.
You made the recruiting decision. Also, did you feel like a badass when you started getting letters? I imagine that was the coolest feeling. You're like,
I did. I did. I was so excited, but I was like petrified of calling college coaches. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Like,
Okay, let's talk
about
this.
that as well. So, what is the recruiting part like on your end to them?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, I think a lot of girls now send out like highlight tapes and stuff like that to get kind of exposure, but Caitlin and I kind of had the help of our parents in that a lot of people knew who we were just because our club team was really talented, so we were in a lot of the big tournaments where college coaches went.
Mm-hmm.
And then people kind of knew that both of our parents were really good volleyball players.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of already on people's radar, which was helpful. But so basically what happened was that we got, letters from a bunch of different schools saying, send us some information about yourself. What's your GPA? How tall are you? How high can you touch? All that kind of stuff.
They asked for your vertical and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And then you kind of send that back in the mail and for schools that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And then coaches kind of start emailing you, calling you, which kind of can be a lot at times.
Especially at what, you're 13, 14?
Yeah, like 15.
Your freshman year.
So, talking to adults is still scary.
Right.
But yeah, no, my mom would have to like bribe Caitlin and I to like return coaches' calls because we hated it.
Would you guys ever do them together or would you always do them separate?
No, we always did them separate.
That's good.
So in high school, Caitlin and I both played the same position, outside hitter, but at the college level, Caitlin was a defensive specialist because, I mean, she's 5'10", which is really tall for a girl, but at the D1 college level, it's tiny.
Yeah, that's incredible because you guys were always the tallest girls I knew for the most part.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, we played with girls that are 6'8", and it's like, oh my god, that's so tall.
Yeah.
No, sometimes my friends would watch me like on TV and be like, you look so small. Like,
we should get a video of one of them like posterizing me. Like me under the rim, just 6'8". Boom!
You dunk.
Yeah.
So did you and Caitlin get recruited by similar schools?
We both got recruited by Stanford. We were both looking at Michigan. But Caitlin, I think if Caitlin didn't go to Stanford, she would have gone to Harvard or Yale or Princeton.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of more on that track.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I imagine at 15 you also have this like lingering thought in your mind. You're like, oh my god, like what if I'm not good by the time I'm like 19?
Exactly.
Right.
I don't know if that's like a thought you had,
Is the recruiting at that level like almost a gamble on their part where they're like, I'm betting their game's going to elevate a certain level to be like D1 ready, by making these commitments to people that are so young. Is that kind of how it works?
Definitely. Like I would say that's a big reason why women's recruiting is younger than men's too, just because like, girls develop earlier and they're kind of like, you can kind of see a little bit more like this skill set and kind of what they're going to look like in, 2-3 years. Whereas like my little brother, James, when he was a freshman in high school, when I left for college, he was
Oh my god,
5'10".
yeah. I remember being like, little
Yeah.
James.
How
And
tall
now
is he
he's
now?
he's 6'9".
Yeah.
Same height as my
He's
dad.
6'9".
So
I
like if
haven't seen him in
someone
a while.
when I was 15, I
Just
was
scooters around the house,
Yeah.
all 6'9" of him on his little
on
like
his hoverboard.
Really?
Yeah, no,
Let's bring
but
those back.
yeah. But if like they, I was being recruited when I was 15, but no one was recruiting my brother when he was 15.
I imagine some of it too would be competition because it sounds like it is a really competitive, like up at the top of women's volleyball, and I kind of equate it maybe to like men's like football because you get kids getting offers in like 8th grade and stuff.
So-
like that
right.
in men's football, and I think it's because up at the top, you know what I mean. You got like Texas, California, Florida, like
Yeah.
the
Right.
the upper like 1% of like competition in those areas is probably pretty. You got to try to get it in the door early with them, you know?
For instance, like David Long is a guy that I always think about because he committed to Stanford like immediately, right? He's as early as you possibly could, like junior year, right?
Right.
And for whatever reason, I think he grew a little bit and he had some really good tape senior year. And Jim Harbaugh, like, I want to get him on for him to tell this story because we've always heard rumors about like how Jim Harbaugh recruited him. Like I heard he like climbed a tree at his house.
Dude, there was a video that came out of him climbing a tree at his house.
So he actually
in
did
high
that?
school. Yes.
We have to have him on.
It was
bro.
part. So are you familiar with Jim Harbaugh?
Yes.
Okay, so like, I remember our senior year of high school was like very like he had a lot of recruiting antics basically where
Right.
he would go and work double time eating freaking all the grandma's foods all over the country.
He'll stay
Making,
somewhere
he's
until
hustling.
they commit.
Yeah, like sleeping in
I
their
already
living
slept
room,
on
not
his
in
couch
like
for like 2 nights
exactly
in a
like
row.
Wow.
sleeping in their home, not in a hotel. Like really being personal, and I think he like climbed David's tree.
I would love to hear the story because I always heard that rumor that Jim Harbaugh like climbed a giant tree at his house to like for some reason prove that he wanted him that badly, but he made the move away from Stanford. But like for him, I think the recruiting. He committed super early and then maybe I don't know how he felt
Probably
decommitting
made
at all.
different decisions, and also teams change.
Right.
Your role at that team changes, and I think it's a perfect intro. I'm sure that's why they're changing that rule now, so you can only really reach out to them juniors. Like maybe it gives kids a little more time to understand like their place at a club or at a team if they were to commit, and like not be like a literal child when they make that decision.
Right.
You know.
Right. I think, especially the scope of like college level athletes right now, like the NCAA's got to be tripping because they're just changed that law in California, made a huge wave in terms of like paying players. Like, did that conversation was that ever discussed? You guys win the Natty 3 times. I'm sure you're generating some decent money for the school. Did that ever cross your mind in terms of maybe we should be making some scratch for this?
I mean, that conversation definitely kind of was tossed around during my time at Stanford amongst kind of the athlete community. I don't think anyone ever really came to. There were no super strong feelings on my team. I think it was kind of the beginning of kind of the when the movement started to pick up. But I mean, I think also it's kind of important to note when thinking about like who's getting paid and whatnot. I think most of us on the team realized that like we wouldn't be the ones making money. It was going to be like Catherine Plummer, who like would get the deal.
The player of the year.
Yeah,
Studs,
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I don't think it would have done much for me, but probably would have been nice for some of my teammates who were 4-time All-Americans.
Yeah.
Wow. So there are some absolute studs on the Stanford volleyball team outside of you and Caitlin.
Oh my gosh, absolute studs.
Turns out you need to be good to win natties.
Actually, 3 of them. So this is a weird story, but 4 of them actually got recruited by the same professional team, and one of them got hurt, but 3 of them are now playing on the same pro team in Germany, which is just like so random.
What percentage of the court is that? Of like the field of play is that?
I mean, 6 people on the court, so if they're all different positions. So
what team did they play for?
Awesome.
Where's the team based?
The team is based in Dresden, Germany.
I love Dresden.
Yeah, I've never been.
Really cool.
I'm trying to make it out there at some point this year.
Dresden's one of the few cities that wasn't bombed in World War II.
That is remarkably not true.
Huh?
That is so not true.
I mean, I
the
messed
fire
that up.
bombings of Dresden is
I
one
messed
of the
that up.
most
I messed
horrific
that up.
bombings of
They
all
dodged
time.
like one building there, I think, was what I meant to say, because
Yeah.
there's one museum there that was really sick, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's gnarly, but that is such a cool place to be.
My words were incorrect historically.
Okay, so you're kind of like entering the college process. I thought it'd be interesting because, like, Will, what was your thought going into college?
My thought was, I mean, I admit, like, the same thing as David. Like, initially committed to IU, was on the I got deferred from my dream school, Michigan, and was actually committed to IU for multiple months. Actually made a stupid Instagram post in retrospect.
We all did it.
Going to IU. Right?
I'm committing to here.
I was
logo.
literally on the Facebook Finder trying to find a roommate. So like, I was really much going to IU, and then like 2 months later, I just sent an email to the Michigan rep, like shot in the dark, being like, I really want to go, blah blah blah. Like, I got better grades, like my GPA went up like a 0.01 point, right? Just center adjusted GPA.
We're moving it up.
And then the response was like, oh, you're in. And I was like,
what?
That was it. Like, the response email was like me getting into Michigan. So I was like, wow.
Dude, that's
so at that point,
advice to any seniors that would be on this.
Honestly, when you get deferred, like I tell this to everybody. I mean, if you're deferred, that's definitely not a no. Sending that email and just like saying that you want it more than anybody else, that's all they're looking to hear, you know. Like,
totally.
More often than not, I've heard that, you know, you'll hear better news once you reach back out, show some initiative, maybe tell them something that you've done since applying that you can add to the application.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always like kind of an excuse, you know, like, oh, like we started a podcast like 4 months ago or whatever. Like, we're doing these new things,
just
like trying to show initiative,
progress.
And it totally worked out. And obviously my decision changed, but I was really stoked to go to Michigan, dude.
What was your nerves like though? You're like a couple weeks out from college. You're about to make the decision. What's on your mind?
I was really antsy to go because Michigan starts later than everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
true.
You had been gone for like 3 weeks. Like, all my friends had been. You know, I've seen their snap stories of like what college is, and it's just like all the nerves like kind of settle once you're like, oh, like the party's already starting for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, I just want my college life to start. So.
I feel like I was far more concerned with the social element of things. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was a lot like
you were facing something. I think I had some more comfortability because I had 3 to 4 very close friends going.
Yeah. I wasn't like scared. It's just you're always like, I feel like whenever you make a big jump, you're always like, oh man, I hope this works out. You know what I mean? Like, I hope it's everything you expect it to be. And I think when I was choosing colleges, at least, it was very much a social thing. Like, I wanted it to be a fun community.
So Bama wasn't a social decision? What?
It's strictly academic. But I kind of lay this out because I'm curious. Your viewpoint as an athlete is probably different than mine and Will's. You know what I mean?
Or did you have to go up early to train? Like, did you move in like midsummer, or what was it like?
Yeah, so I think Finn mentioned that he was nervous about the social aspect. I was just like strictly nervous about the volleyball.
Really? Okay.
Like,
it makes sense.
Going in, I knew that, like this was a really good team. I was nervous, like, do I deserve to be here? Like, am I gonna be just like embarrassed on the court?
A little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we went up. So Stanford doesn't start until late September, and as freshmen, we got on campus in early August, like August 7th or so, and we moved in. We had roommates on the team for preseason, so they had freshman room with seniors, which I was also kind of nervous for.
That is so intimidating.
Why did they do that? Just to show you the ropes, or
just to kind of like make sure you're like mingling with other people on the team?
Is that just volleyball or all sports?
No, it's like just on a team by team basis.
Yeah. I was about to say, I feel like that could result in hazing.
That's kind of like a different version of Loyola's Big Brother program, because they always assign one freshman to a senior, and like he's supposed to be like your buddy for the year.
Exactly.
Is that kind of like did you maintain those relationships through the rest of the year, like with those specific people you live with? Or?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, it definitely helps to get to know people outside of your class, because I think it's really comfortable to kind of I came in with 5 other freshmen, so it would have been really easy to kind of just like stay together.
Yeah.
Whether it all
and how many
together,
roster spots are there? So like 5 out of.
There were, let's see, I think my freshman year there were 15 girls on the team.
Okay, so a third of the people were your age.
Yes, exactly.
So that means kids are dropping off throughout the years too, right?
Yeah, I think
or were you guys just a big class?
We were. I mean, the class below us was 4, and then 2 below us was 2. So it just really depends on the year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So is it mainly stay for 4 though? Like they play.
Most people stay for 4. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I would say most people stay for 4. We've had like a few walk-ons kind of stop after 2 or so. But most of the scholarship players stay the whole time.
So, in terms of the strategy for recruiting, if you're a coach, if you know you're looking at the freshman level, or I don't even know, like if you're talking to them 3 years ahead, do you have to do that kind of math in terms of what spots are going to be you're going to need come when these girls flush out of college?
Yeah, definitely. So, you only recruit. So, for example, like I'm not sure how familiar you are with volleyball, but you need, so my position is outside hitter, and you need kind of at least 4 of those on a team, whereas like for a libero, you only need one libero.
1 or
Really?
2.
Yeah, like 1 and then a backup libero. Same as like you usually only need 2 setters. But so yeah, coaches definitely take kind of position.
The libero's not a setter.
Libero's the one that wears the different colored jersey, and they only stay in the back and do passing and defense.
Okay.
And setter's the one that like goes like that.
And the libero's typically the smaller person,
Yeah.
right?
The shortest person's typically the libero.
Is that just so they're like can get low quicker?
Yeah, I mean they're closer to the ground. It doesn't hurt as much when they fall. A lot of times they were like hitters when they were younger.
Okay.
And then kind of just were too short
Quick
to be
growing.
a hitter at a college level, and
Gotcha.
like they were really good at that. So like made it work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of going into college a little bit like this might be too good of a team.
Yeah, exactly.
At what point did that feeling start to either fade or grow?
Right. When did you settle in?
Yeah, so my freshman year I actually got injured. So we had kind of an injury. The girl who was playing ahead of me got injured, so I was a starter for 2 months or so.
Straight off freshman year, you were a
Yeah,
starter.
freshman year I was a starter, and unfortunately I fractured my back.
Oh,
Which was a big bummer. So it was a stress fracture.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like the repetitive
Okay.
hitting motion. And that was a big bummer for me because I'd fractured my back senior year of the same thing. So I had
the same one?
The same one. So I had to sit out kind of like senior volleyball season, and then had to sit out.
Finally getting the ball rolling in
exactly.
college, having
like,
this awesome.
Was super excited about starting, and then that was obviously kind of I was out for a while because of that. So I think even after just like coming back from that, like my sophomore year, I kind of felt like I was starting at square one again, with like still feeling nervous, like feeling like I hadn't grown as much as I'd wanted to the past year just from having to sit. So I would say, through my sophomore year, I think I was still kind of nervous to be out there.
Okay.
But by my junior year, for sure, I felt comfortable.
I feel like that's kind of when you get over the hump too. You're officially like one of the older people.
You're an
on the
upperclassman.
team,
You feel super comfortable socially. Like you know what you're doing in school. So like
people are looking at you for that cue.
Exactly.
So maybe you can talk about this as much as you'd like. What's it like being on a team with your teammate or with your sibling?
Yeah.
Because what happens if they're having a good year and you're having a bad year, or you're having a good year and they're having a bad year? You know what I mean? Like, you guys are having maybe 2 different emotional experiences on a team.
Totally.
But like you want to be there for each other, but you also want to enjoy and have your team moment as well. So can you touch on that?
Yeah. So I think it was helpful that in college, Caitlin and I weren't the same position.
Okay.
So we weren't competing for playing time.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
There was no direct competition, which was nice. One kind of funny story I'll let you in on. Kind of a secret, but now that I'm graduated, I can reveal the strategy.
Spill the tea.
But so at Stanford, we would do these drills where like you would be serving and there would be passers on the other side, and you're trying to ace them. Like you're trying to serve as hard as you can.
Exactly. Practice.
Yes, it's like very competitive.
Okay.
It's like you versus them, and sometimes Caitlin and I would be on different sides just randomly. And we had like an unspoken rule. Well, we spoke about it sometimes in secret that like when we were serving at each other, we would like tone it down.
Yeah,
try and help the other one get
There's no reason to make each other look bad.
Yeah, exactly. So that was fun. It was really fun. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually lived together for the first time this past year. So we lived in the same room, which we hadn't done before during our time at Stanford. And I think it's just really cool to have someone, no matter how badly you're playing or like how you're feeling, there's someone that kind of like loves you no matter what, Sometimes you can be really upset with your teammates if, someone does something stupid on the court and you're like, oh, why did they do that? But when it's your sister, it's like, at the end of the day, they still have your back.
I'm imagining too, it's probably easier to put volleyball aside with them. Exactly. If you're like living with it, because right now, before I knew where I was going to be or I knew where these guys were going to be, I was looking at who do I want my roommate to be for like after college, and I was like, I don't know if I want my roommate to be a coworker necessarily. Yeah. Because I might just be bringing work home with you. You know what I mean? Like that might be just a little too much of that. So I can imagine on something as competitive as like especially Stanford women's volleyball.
Totally.
That it could be like you bring a bad practice home with you. You know what I mean? Or if you mess up in a big game, you're already chewing yourself out about it. You don't want to hear it. Yeah. So I bet that element of rooming with your sister was really nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So, You mentioned it before, but you won 3 national championships in your 4 years at Stanford. So for those who don't know, what is the playoff structure like? Number one, like, is it like March Madness type style, or what's the seating like? And maybe outline some of the highlights from each of the years, and maybe some of the most memorable games from your career.
Yeah. So I would say to start, with the bracket is just kind of like March Madness. So there's 64 teams, similar seating. So that's pretty similar. I would say each of the national championships people ask kind of like, which was your favorite one? Mm-hmm. And I think I would have to say my senior year, just because, it was the last one. I think freshman.
Was that Nebraska?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Freshman year, I don't think that we really appreciated it as much as we should have.
Really?
Just because you don't realize, kind of, we're like, oh, just this is what you do.
This is what you do when you get here,
You're supposed to win a national championship.
Yeah.
You did it.
That was so wild to see. Like, what? They already won one? Like, we thought it was going to happen.
Right,
not like immediately.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
You see her on ESPN. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like so cool. Like,
yeah. I think too, like, freshman year, just because freshman year was tougher for me, because I knew that I did have a starting role at one point, and then kind of was injured and wasn't able to compete the rest of the season. So I think that was frustrating. Sure. And it was tough. Like, in the national championship, I wasn't wearing like the team jersey because I was injured, and that kind of that's a bummer to like. Yeah. So I think, and then we lost my sophomore year. We lost in the Final Four to Florida. Mm-hmm. So I think after that, I think that was really good for our team.
I was going to say, did that kind of shake you up? That this isn't just something you get every year? Or?
They lost in the next game.
Who won the title that year?
I think it was Nebraska.
Nice. And that's the team you ended up beating senior year.
Yes, yeah. We ended up beating them senior year.
Okay.
And I think we needed to lose sophomore year to win our junior.
Why do you think that?
Well, it was just, I think our sophomore year we were trying to repeat exactly the same thing that we did freshman year, which I think it just isn't going to work. Every season's different. Like, we had new people, a new coach, like a new...
You had a coaching switch after a national championship?
We did, yeah. Our coach retired.
Why did that go? Oh, he retired.
Our coach retired.
Okay.
So we had a coaching switch. We had 4 new freshmen. So I think we just kind of needed to do things really differently, which we did our junior year, and then did it completely differently senior year too.
When you say like you try to do the same things, like what do you mean? Do you mean like some seniors graduated and they tried to lead the team in the same way? Are you talking about the way you guys played as a style, or like the way you guys practiced? Like, what do you mean you did try to do the same thing? Yeah,
so I think I'm mostly referring to like actually playing, in terms of like trying to run the exact same offense with like the same tempo sets, and like just kind of repeat, like even culture wise, like do things, a lot of girls on our team were superstitious. So like if I did this last year, like I have to do it the same way this year.
What's the weirdest superstition thing that you saw? Like maybe a pregame routine or...
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is a weird one.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh. Yeah. Some of my teammates were really superstitious, but one of my really good friends, Tammy Alade, who is a year older than me, had like all kinds of weird things. But the weirdest one I can think of is she wouldn't look anyone in the eye, like, or any of the opponents, like 20 minutes before the game. So she would just be like walking around
with her head
like
down?
This, and wouldn't look at anyone.
Is that like her way of trying to like get in the zone, or?
No, she just said that once she was like looking at people too much and had a bad game. So like to this day, she'll
it just got in her head.
So that's what she thinks?
In her head. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, one of my other teammates, who's Morgan Hens, who's in Dresden right now. She was our libero, and phenomenal libero. She like tore up. She would wear like elbow pads, knee pads, like hand pads, and she wouldn't replace her hand pads. So there was like no padding left. It was just like this little string that had been like sewn together and like wouldn't ever take.
Is that for when you try and dig with your like a flat hand?
Yeah, or just like when you kind of dive on the ground and like scrape it. So like wearing the same clothes. I'm trying to think of other stuff people
These are all really good. I mean, why do you think volleyball players are suspicious? Is that just your team, or did you experience that at the club level, high school level?
I didn't experience it at the club or high school level. I think it's like a personality thing, to be honest.
Do you think it happens at other like teams at Stanford or just like in general? And
I do think. Oh, another funny one is, so one of my teammates is like the pickiest eater that you've ever seen, and she like won't eat really anything, and her pregame meal is always just like chocolate. She'll just eat
no way
a whole bag of Kit Kats and then go out and like just ball out.
So you need like the
that
sugar rush to go
completely
play?
blows up the idea of like you have to eat well to play well. It's
Right,
like no, you don't. Kit Kats,
TB12
like...
method? Nope.
She doesn't eat any fruits or vegetables besides apples. And, like, just eats, like, chocolate and pasta and bread.
Just natural sugars and processed sugars.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
hey, it'll take you to the next level.
I was going to say, she's a D1 athlete, so don't tell her she's doing something
Did you
wrong.
ever start to get any superstitions?
No, I'm, like, a very logical person.
You're just little.
So
You're not superstitious.
I'm not superstitious
Just
at
a little
all.
stitches.
You can see
No.
through that. You're like, I played a bad game, I'll play a better one.
No, sometimes, like, I guess this wasn't really superstitious, but if I was playing and I was doing badly, sometimes I would, like, change, like, sometimes I would wear a hair tie on my wrist and, like, take it off or, like, put it in my hair, but it wasn't superstitious. It was just, like, kind of a mental cue.
Oh, this
like,
is fucking
okay,
me up. Like...
something's like, I want to change something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's, like, actually changing
I
something.
totally understand.
Now, like, let me change the
you
way
just gotta
I'm playing.
change juju up a little bit.
Yeah,
Rearrange
exactly.
the juju. Try again.
Exactly.
So at God, what was it? Never mind. What were you gonna ask?
Yeah, in terms of being like a D1 athlete at Stanford, right?
Yeah.
So Stanford is obviously very academically rigorous.
Yes.
And near impossible to graduate from there, even if you don't play, a sport and, are very good and win championships there. So talk about try to summarize, I guess, how do you manage your time with going to a school like Stanford and, in terms of your training schedule, what was it like, being a student athlete?
Yeah, so I would say this is probably not something you hear a lot, but for me personally, managing my time in high school was much more difficult.
Really?
So Marymount Volleyball was just so we had practice every morning from 5:30 to 7:30, and then after school from 3:30 to 5:30. So double days every day. The only time we didn't have a double day was game day.
Wow. And did you not have any practice on game day, or did they make you practice before in the morning?
We didn't practice in the morning on game day. But in addition to that, I also played club volleyball. I played basketball. Yeah. So sometimes I would go from, school basketball practice to club volleyball practice, and then kind of get home at 8 p.m. and start doing your homework.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like in college, by the time I got to college, I was like, oh, sweet, I only have to take 3 classes a day, and I only have 1 practice.
Right.
You can do homework during classes or in the middle of classes. You got so much more flexibility.
So it definitely was busy still, just because, in college, practice is 3 hours. You practice for 3 hours, you lift for an hour, you have a team meeting for a half hour.
Yeah.
You shower and have to be in the locker room before practice, so that's 5 hours a day. So I think
that's pretty close to probably what you were doing in high school.
Yeah.
Except your middle part of the day was more structured and probably you couldn't get done what you needed to.
The reason I asked that is because Richard Sherman, really famous safety for the 49ers right now, has always been very outspoken for student athlete and paying them specifically because, he always refers back to his days at Stanford as a D1 athlete in football and talking about their meetings, their lift schedule, and still trying to graduate. I forget what his major was, but he graduated. Also, maybe you can talk about this because I know Andrew Luck also got drafted as the number 1 overall pick, and then still was adamant that he finished his degree, even though there's a little bit of leeway when he should have been in training camp for the Colts.
Right.
So, do you think it's a lot of people don't want to miss out on the opportunity of having a degree from Stanford, or do you think the people that choose to go there are automatically deciding that they're going to go 4 years and then try, if pro sports are an option, I'll move on with that because your friends obviously moved on to the pro level as well.
Did they
seems
finish
a lot
school first, or did they go?
They finished school first.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a lot of Stanford student athletes prioritize graduating before going to the pros. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's kind of sport by sport. So, I think it's maybe a little bit different for example, you're talking about football, where kind of that you're gonna make a lot of money in the NFL, whereas some of the smaller sports like swimming or soccer or even volleyball, I think people are a lot more, they really want to get their degree, because even if you can play volleyball overseas for, 5 years, like that's not gonna, you're still gonna need to, you're not retiring off of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think that's definitely a big reason. And then I think too, just to get into Stanford, like, obviously it's easier.
It's like the lowest, it's like admission rate, like in the U.S.
Exactly. Right? So I think that like the type of people that like can be admitted to Stanford just kind of automatically, they've always prioritized school.
Sure. Right. And I think that holds true, because it's like Stanford's, I mean, besides volleyball probably, are they the first in most sports? Like football, they're not. You know what I mean? If you go to Stanford, odds are you're probably getting recruited by some other pretty good schools.
Right.
But maybe you're valuing the academic balance. You know what I mean? Yeah. When a lot of other kids getting recruited would probably just be like, screw that, I'm going to the school that has the best, and most kids going to the NFL or something like that. You know, like, I think the overall, or the initial decision-making process, at least being led by academics, is probably indicative of a kid who's going to stick around, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a lot of your friends. Okay, also, I remember my question, I'm going to ask it. Have you ever gotten the yips?
What's the yips?
Okay, so the yips, for those who don't know, are when you mess up. So when you mess up in a game, for example, classic example, this is baseball. You know, say you throw a bunch of curveballs and you made it to the MLB because you're such a good pitcher. And then all of a sudden in Game 5 of the World Series, you start like missing the plate. And then you beat a player, which means you hit them. And then all of a sudden you do it again and you load the bases and you lose Game 5. Yeah. There's been people whose entire careers have not been right after that, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like they messed up in a big moment, or they just can't shake the slump.
It's almost like a mental block that, like, kind of what happened to Paul George the first 3 games of the Clippers series.
Playoff P.
Paying attention. He called himself Playoff P, and then had like the historically low shooting percentage for the first 3 games of a playoff series.
And people asked him to go to Europe.
Like, there was a position to send him to Europe, like. But that's obviously a mental block, and he talked about it. So have you ever, like, obviously you're not superstitious, but like sometimes you can get down on yourself after you have a couple bad games in a row. Like, talk about that, the mind part of the game.
Yeah, so I think definitely, so kind of my role for this past season was I wasn't starting, but I was kind of like the first person off of the bench, so I always had to be ready to go in. And like sometimes if the person in front of me wasn't doing as well as the coach wanted them to, kind of I just had to be ready to jump in right away. And then kind of I would get one chance, and if I didn't get a kill, or I would just kind of be yanked. So that was really tough.
That's tough on your psyche.
It's really tough because for most people, like if you're starting, you're like, okay, like it's okay if I make a mistake because I have 100 other opportunities to like make up for it. But in the position I was in, like I really didn't have any other opportunities. It was like this or go out.
Do you think there's ever moments where you felt the need to overcompensate and maybe say like I have to ball out on this play, and maybe that's not like the play that's best, like in terms of like your volleyball knowledge, like you do something else where you're like, hey, I want to stay in, you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, I think in terms of like hitting, I think you get super excited to like have the chance to I want to hit it as hard as I can, when like in reality you probably should just like chill out and like if it's not a great set, just like keep it in play.
Sure.
But I think especially because I wasn't getting at that point the chance to play every game or play consistently. I think kind of it does get in your head when you do make a mistake, because that's kind of the most recent thing in your head until the next chance you get to play. And I think practice is helpful with that in terms of, maybe you made a mistake in a game and you didn't get to play after that, but then the next day in practice you're like, okay, I still know how to hit.
Yeah.
I can still do it. Like,
have you ever slumped? Where you're like, it's been 3 days and you're like, oh, I can't figure, like, I know I'm capable of doing this, I'm here, but like,
yeah, definitely,
what's going on with me? Like,
definitely, I think I've definitely had like a week or two where you're like, this sucks, like this doesn't feel right,
my swing is off.
I think like especially like coming back from my injury, that was a while where I was like,
tough.
My reflexes are so slow, like
that's gonna be even more frustrating too, because your body's physically like not delivering.
Something that doesn't really get talked about that much is rehab in general. Like you had to rehab 2 years in a row, and reverting back to Andrew Luck, that's the main reason he retired. Is like he's like, I can't go through another full rehab to get injured again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's a total mental grind, because you don't really reap the rewards from all the work you're doing until months and months later. So maybe talk about how the rehab went and maybe like what you were doing for that.
Yeah, so at Stanford they have like a special kind of sports medicine type hospital, I guess you could say.
Oh,
so
very cool.
Kind of all the athletes go there to, get checkups and go to the doctor and do PT and
really
all of
cool.
that, which is kind of nice because, I mean, PT sucks, but at least you get to kind of like make friends with other athletes while you're doing it.
Wait, is it just like a spread of a bunch of tables being worked on and you just get to hang out?
Exactly. So,
get poked and you're like,
it's like the cold tub. You're just like sitting, it's funny.
Yeah, so
we weren't athletic enough to be in the cold tub.
I went in the cold tub a couple times.
Get out of here.
The cold tub's not fun.
No, it's not fun, but you always want someone next to you.
Yeah, but no, I mean, PT is definitely a grind. I was lucky in that, I only had to do it for a few months. The injury that I had was a lot more rest, I guess, than it was PT. Just
the stress fracture, you're probably just like...
It was bone, so, there's not much you can do to get the bone back.
Don't make this worse.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, the PTs the physical therapists were awesome at Stanford, and I was only there for about 2 months or so.
I heard those are definitely the unsung heroes of like an athletic program, like all the people that are, equipment managers, like the team doctors and all those people like that, aside from Tim Mosicki. I hate Tim Mosicki. Have you heard about Tim Mosicki?
No. Damn, all right.
God. the Loyola trainer
he literally has
I
believe a sign in his office that says "just ice it." Like that was
literally like
you could have like
your
arm would be
ACL
an S.
like,
your arm would be an S, and he'd be like, "Oh, like ice it." Could be in like could be in a loser about it. You're like, Tim. Like,
oh my God.
No, I feel like that's a big difference between college and high school sports because I kind of remember that from high school too. Like you would say something hurts, and they'd be like, "Are you sure?"
Dude,
like,
Tim was not like he was like harsh about it.
He was like ice it. He'd say some vulgarities to you, and you're just like, "Whoa, man!"
Like kids on the cross country team would stay having stress fractures on their shins and stuff like that, which is a painful thing.
Yeah.
Like, and he would just be like, "You guys are such like whiny babies," and stuff like that. Like if you weren't going to the league, he was not interested.
He's like, I have football. He's like always talks about like the football injuries he gets. He's like, I got football guys with elbows bent in. Like you guys like are. Oh, it's just he was such a mean guy.
Yeah, he was a clown. Did you have anyone like that in your like program? You don't have to name names.
Yeah, no, we were. I think,
but you were like, man, that guy sucks.
No, I think that's a big difference between like high school and then like D1 level. Is like if you say something hurts, they're like, okay, like they really check you out. They believe you.
True.
I mean,
you're a little
there's
more
so much at stake.
Yeah, there's money on the line.
Yeah, there's money on the line. Championships on the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there ever any coaches or stuff like that where you're like frustrated with?
Yeah.
You don't have to say what level or who. But...
No. Yeah. I think in high school, definitely coaches were kind of, especially as
I've heard about that coach.
Yeah, that coach. Maybe some of you know which coach I'm talking about, but coaches that don't believe in stretching and just kind of won't let you get water, and if you're
like old school style,
like be tough,
tough it out,
that
it's
type of thing.
You're like,
which is honestly a bummer because that's where all of my back problems started.
Oh
because,
God.
I think
speaking of back problems,
this coach's motto was quantity over quality.
Yeah.
So kind of
really.
Yeah, just like reps, which, breaks down your body.
Did you ever think, wow, this person is lucky to have so many athletes that just came to this school? You know what I mean? Like, you're very lucky to have the talent you have because as a coach, you probably wouldn't cut it out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, too, like, we would have been, like, my senior year, I mentioned, I was out with a stress fracture. We didn't win CIF. I was injured. Another girl on the team who was playing in college was injured. Like, if we hadn't been injured, like, it could have been a whole different story.
Also, like, I'm imagining, from your point of view, too, maybe you're thinking, like, maybe I don't play for this team if I'm going to get injured. Because you have college on the line, and, like, I guess you're in a spot where you were basically enrolled your junior year.
Right.
But if I'm, like, haven't signed my, like, LOIs, that's the official one, right?
Yep.
maybe I'm not gonna risk getting injured if I've got like an offer. You know what I mean? Especially if the coach is like, you're saying you're hurt and they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine.
I've seen that a lot on the college level. Like if people know they're going to the draft, they won't play their bowl game.
Yeah.
That's kind of a thing that actually became popular like right when we went to college.
Right.
Like Michigan, that's not why specifically, but Michigan never won a bowl game when I was in college. We lost to you senior year to Bama because you guys got snubbed out of the playoffs.
Come get these hands.
But more specifically, like all of our marquee players, like Jabril Peppers, like never, like didn't play. Like anybody who's gets drafted sits out of the bowl game. But I don't know if that's necessarily how they.
Well, that and Coach Harbaugh's all talk, so you guys just can't finish. I mean,
I'm not a fan of Harbaugh. I will not defend him.
Bad
at all.
executor.
No, I will not defend him. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, no, that's interesting you brought that up though, because that's actually exactly what I decided to do. My senior year of high school club season. So club was after school season. I had been injured. You know, I could have kind of pushed and tried to come back for JOs, but I just decided I wanted to be 100% going into Stanford.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna.
You got a future to look forward to.
Yep.
Do your friends have any aspirations of playing for the women's volleyball team in the Olympics, or how does that work? If they're did they sign multi-season contracts with their team in Dresden, or how's that work?
Yeah, so actually 2 of my teammates were training with the national team this summer. One of them is still there now, and she will be going to maybe Japan. It might be Japan in a few weeks. But they will be overseas for maybe a year or 2, and then I think they wanna train with the U.S. team again.
Sweet.
And hopefully try and make the team. So that would be fun
That'd
if
be
they did.
so
I would
cool.
be at
Would
the
you
Olympics.
go?
Oh my
That would be
gosh,
really
100%.
fun.
We gotta make this a group. I just want to go to Olympics.
I
I always thought it was a cool thing.
One of my homie's sisters was literally gonna swim in Tokyo. Is still swimming in Tokyo, and his whole family had tickets booked. Yeah, she set she set a couple records at the college level. Her name's Annie Laser. Check her out.
That is badass.
How cool is that?
Laser.
As a
Laser.
And she's
swimmer?
a fast swimmer too.
That's
Laser,
awesome.
yeah. Shout out to Laser.
That's gonna be on her cap too. It's just gonna say laser. with
Dude,
the
it's
American
gonna say
flag.
laser with the American flag.
That's
I didn't think about that.
That's tight.
But yeah, they were bummed because they, had that whole trip planned. Also,
Man,
I saw
fingers crossed. I hope that comes through because that is such an incredible experience.
that would be so
you know?
cool for them. Also, I feel bad for the person who designed that absolutely perfect Olympic logo 2020.
Oh yeah.
You saw that thing on Twitter
So
where it's
good.
imagine inventing the best Olympic logo of all time, and then it has to be moved to 2021.
That's
Right?
just
So-
on brand for this
So
year.
they can't use it. But I've seen now that that's so on brand for 2020, right? Like that perfect logo has to be ruined. But I've seen now they're writing it out, still using that red O with the O-N-E instead, rather than the 1. But it still doesn't look as clean.
Yeah.
You have mentioned a couple of your friends go to Europe. This one's looking to go to Japan. Where has volleyball taken you? What's the coolest place?
Yeah. So 2 summers ago, I got to go to Slovenia,
Oh, damn.
Italy, and Croatia with my Stanford team,
That's really
Nice.
cool.
and we got to play a bunch of pro teams over there. It was awesome.
How'd that
How'd you
shape
guys-
out?
how'd you guys
What's
fare?
the disparity like in terms of talent?
Yeah, so we actually played, the hardest team we played was a team of girls that was our age or younger that didn't go to school.
Oh,
They only
it was an
did,
academy.
you stop after 8th grade, you just do volleyball. It was
Wow.
gnarly.
Were
but
you beasts?
they were beasts. They were beasts. But yeah, we were pretty, I would say we were on par with
Yeah. Did you
Really?
beat any of them?
That's really cool.
We did beat some of them. We weren't playing the best, the leagues that my
Sure.
teammates are at right now are much better leagues with better teams. But the teams we were playing, the pro teams, we're taking some games from them. So
That's
that
really
was,
cool.
that was
Let's
cool.
go.
Yeah,
It's gotta be a
That's gotta
rewarding
feel
experience
good.
to be like, wow,
Totally.
this is these people's career. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yep. Yeah, so that was fun. Got to go to Venice and
Where was your favorite place you saw in terms of just a traveler's perspective?
yeah. I mean, I've heard amazing things about Croatia, so I was really excited
Mhm.
about. Apparently, they have the prettiest beaches in the world.
Yeah.
But it was a big bummer because we only got to go to the beach once, and we went to a concrete beach with no
Oh
sand.
no,
and,
like a slab of.
yeah,
Or sometimes
Communist-
you go to a rocky beach, you're like, no.
yeah.
Just communist beach. It's all concrete minimalism. Just
So that was
Yeah.
kind of a bummer, but it was definitely a work trip. There wasn't as much
Right.
sightseeing as I would have hoped for, but you know.
Like, did your coach make you practice a bunch?
Oh yeah.
Dang.
Which was like,
I feel so bummed.
My brother with the Stanford men's basketball team went to Europe this past summer, and like they practiced once and played one game.
That's so cool.
If they stayed out there for a while?
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a reason I'm not the coach of things at this level, probably because of my answer right now, but I would be like, y'all have fun.
I was gonna be like, I would have little to no
This doesn't count for the
discipline.
record. You guys are clearly all very talented.
But like, are those all
athletes,
exhibition games, or do they count towards your season somehow?
No,
or
they
your
count for
ranking?
nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are just in the summertime?
Yep.
Cool.
Did you guys walk around in your athlete swag and just kind of like?
We did, yeah.
Did people like think you were really cool? Like,
oh yeah, love our athlete swag.
really?
That's like, so we call it Nike Christmas.
Nike Christmas.
Like every fall, we just get like a bunch of like Nike gear, which is
You're like
We're all
spirit pack,
Where all the
right?
Croatians like, oh my god, look at you, you're so cool.
well. There was actually like a girl who followed our team everywhere we went, and was like who had like a crush on one of the girls on my team. And when we left Europe,
Kind of
we were
stalkery.
like, yeah, like very much stalkery. And
What nation was this in?
this was in Croatia.
Gotcha.
We were very relieved when we went back to the U.S. We're like, we're never gonna see her again. She came to the U.S.
No.
She came to Stanford.
Stop it.
And she ended up playing college volleyball at Minnesota.
No way.
So we saw her in the Final Four this year.
Wow.
Small worlds.
Wait, so she wasn't that young?
I need some background info. How did
She-
she like get to attach to you guys? Were you playing her?
She was a setter, so she was just like obsessed with the setter on my team. No, we never played her or anything. She just like
She just made it a
followed,
point to go see
followed
you guys.
Stanford volleyball. Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
a lot.
So
And
would
then
you
did she just
classify
show
her
up
as
as-
like a obsessive fan?
Yes,
Or okay.
yes, an obsessive.
That's
fan.
gotta be kind of
Okay.
badass to have obsessive fans. You know, I'd like one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know,
there's
So-
like,
What's the buzz like on campus when you win a national championship? I mean, like,
I'm not done though. I got follow up questions
okay.
about this stalker. I'm
okay,
super
we'll
interested.
Keep on the stock.
So, did she just show up to Stanford one day?
Yeah, I mean, she came out to some of our games, and we like recognized her. She like tried to, make her run for the floor to like.
Love it.
She
No
asked for
way.
my teammates like sweaty towels,
No,
socks, like
no,
all of that.
no.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah.
That I just watched a movie.
yeah, for like
oh,
autographs or something like that.
Oh yeah, we've had
That
this.
sounds like a movie.
There's
Like,
something-
it's so creepy.
The girl on my team who's National Player of the Year, she's had people like make socks of her face, birthday cakes of her face. People dress up as her for Halloween. Like
Wow.
What?
little
That's
girls
cool.
are crazy.
That's cool to be.
crazy.
That's
Little
cool to be
girls
kind
is
of a
cute,
role
though,
model
you
like
know?
that for
Yeah, that's
for a
true.
bunch
It's
of girls.
fandom. Yeah.
It's fandom.
Because like
It's-
you're right.
yeah.
I know a lot of friends of mine are from Menlo Park and live like minutes away from campus. So like,
Yep.
is there a lot of local fandom from girls aspiring volleyball players in the area, like Menlo,
Definitely.
Atherton?
Yep. At our games, we always have like a bunch of sections of like club teams, high school teams, like younger girls just coming out to support. Which
Yeah,
is cool.
I'm sure that's got to be such a fun place to go watch volleyball on display. I remember growing up in Newport, like I would go watch UCI volleyball games all the time.
Mhm.
Like I watched them play like against Hawaii, against Stanford as well. Like some big name programs would come through and play
Yeah.
them. It was a lot of fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea too to like be a college athlete and have like that level of role models.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you got to take that into your personal life.
So
too. I'm
do
sorry,
they-
you have to
do they
act.
plan-
You got to carry them with you. I imagine. I don't know.
Are you good on the stalker thing, or can we move on?
No, I'm satisfied with the stalker thing. That was as creepy as I wanted it to be.
Yeah, let's not take that a step further. But in terms of like celebrating a national title, like how do you go about doing that? Parade? Like what's going on?
Yeah. So it's funny.
Silly.
Stanford is probably like the only school in the country where, I always use this example. I was in a 15-person Spanish class, and I think like 6 of the 15 people had won national championships. There was like a women's swimmer, a men's soccer player, 2 women's volleyball players.
Wow.
And like, so at that point, it's like, oh, you won a natty? Me too. Like, oh, cool.
Oh,
Like,
it's like
congrats.
Oh
you
my
joined the
God.
club.
Yeah, exactly. So that's very unique. But
That is
no,
interesting.
our season is in the fall and ends in December. So we usually go to playoffs and then don't come back to campus until after Christmas break.
Oh, so a lot of time has
So at that
passed.
point, it's been 2-3 weeks.
Gotcha.
And we usually throw, like this year, we threw a golden black party with like, we threw an all campus. So at Stanford, like, there's not that many parties.
Yeah, how's the party scene like?
Yeah.
Not as great as Michigan or Alabama.
Right. I mean, like, just indulge us though.
Yeah.
What's the scene like? Do they have like final clubs up there?
So,
like, what
fraternities
is
and
that?
sororities,
There are a few fraternities and sororities. There are only 2 frats that have houses and like 2 sororities that have houses.
What are they like? Give me the like cold, honest take on these guys.
Honestly, like they seem super nice.
Okay,
like
cool.
yeah, Greek life is super low key at Stanford.
That's nice. That's
So it's not like these
Super-
huge frat bros that like have nothing else going on.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Not like,
And my twin was actually Caitlin was a Kappa.
Yeah, that's right.
So and yeah, a few of my teammates were in sororities. I wasn't.
You were allowed to be in a sorority and
We
be on
were.
the team?
We were because it was like nothing. Like you
Is
don't
it
live in a house.
Because it's like unofficial? Or
There's just not like it didn't get in the way of anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know.
Well, because I thought there's actual regulations in terms of like being a part of a like a Greek life system.
No, it's like team by team. So I know like the men's soccer team, their coach won't let them be in a frat, but like
okay.
our coaches chill with it.
Okay.
So what kind of parties did you guys go to and when?
We went to, I would say, so in season we had like team party drinking rules. So we were not allowed to, as a team, we decided that we couldn't go out the night before games.
That's
right.
fair.
That
Which is
seems
very
pretty
fair.
standard for
Yeah.
most D1 teams.
Yep. And so just like by virtue of being away every other weekend and like not being able to go out before games, in season it was, we only went to a party, I would say, twice a month.
Sure.
Out of season, like spring was super fun, but
Yeah.
in season we were kind of pretty focused on volleyball.
So the weather in San Francisco, do you guys because like there's a famous phrase is like the coldest winter you've ever had was like a summer in San Francisco, right? So come springtime, like in Menlo Park, is the weather? Does Carl come all the way back there, or are you guys kind of shielded by it? Like is the weather nice, or do you guys have to deal with that kind of cloudy, cold climate?
It always gets cold at night, which I was not expecting when I went to Stanford. Like in SoCal, it stays pretty temperate. Like Stanford, it drops at night, so it gets super cold. Like, I mean, not super cold, like not compared to East Coast, obviously, but enough to have like a heavy jacket. But yeah, it starts to warm up in the spring. Usually gets to like 70s by I would say
nice.
March. Yeah.
Does Stanford as a whole have any like big school like traditions that like maybe get to turn into a party or like your tailgating looks pretty rowdy.
The Cal Stanford game has to be huge, right?
Yeah. So I would say big tradition is called Full Moon on the Quad.
Cool.
And basically it sounds interesting, but basically it's like a freshman year thing, but kind of the whole school goes. And you basically just like have to kiss like random people, and like people have bingo cards of like kiss someone that is from Minnesota, like kiss someone that does this.
Wow.
And we also have kind of like a group at Stanford called Synergy, and they are like nudists.
That
like
sounds like a cult. I was just about to say Synergy
they're
sounds
like
a
a
cult.
nudist colony.
They're actual nudists?
And yeah, so they
such a
like,
Bay Area thing. Oh my god.
How many people are in this Synergy group? Like 20
a few
or
hundred.
yeah, maybe 30.
30 people?
And so they
Double
like
your team. Okay.
they're there like kind of jumping around everywhere. And
Oh wait, do they chill on campus naked?
so they don't go to class naked, but like they go out naked.
What?
How was that not a charge?
I was gonna say,
How
yeah,
is that
that's a
not-
public nudity charge.
Because like I get that you want to be naked, but what if I don't want to see you naked?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not all about you,
and
brother.
what's the like breakdown in terms of like, what's the gender breakdown here? Like, is it mostly
Guys,
one versus the other?
As far as I can tell, it seems 50-50.
Okay.
at least it's equitable. I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm just trying. I don't know. I've never seen or met a nudist before.
if it's
so.
not equitable, it very quickly turns into a flasher group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like these guys are running around flashing people. Like
It's tough when you're in like a crowded space and you're trying not to like bump people and like people are naked.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, like,
did you know anyone in this
that's
Synergy
wild.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
group? Would they just
I don't
all,
think
would
you
they
wanna
like would they
associate
show
with
up to parties and you'd be like, oh shit, that guy's not wearing clothes?
Yeah.
that. Wow.
That's wild.
And they let him in. I mean, like, we would never let them
No.
in.
Yeah, see, Stanford.
It's too cold for that.
At
new
Stanford
shit.
parties, there's like everyone can go.
Okay, so are they held in like kind of public places, or what? Where are they? Like bars, or what's the scene like?
No, not bars. Like just in different dorms mostly. Yeah. So honestly, sometimes dining halls too.
In the dining hall?
Yeah.
They let you party in there?
People will rent out dining halls and throw parties. Yeah.
That's cool. And
Yeah,
like
that's
they're
cool.
not strict about having booze in there or anything like that?
No, not as far as I know. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Wow.
What a foreign place. I'm trying to imagine
know.
someone like in a cardigan talking to some dude that's completely naked about like I'm sure
That
something
is
incredibly
one
intelligent.
thing that is so weird. So everybody, like, how many people would you kiss in this event?
Full moon on the quad. Well, I mean,
How many smooches?
some people, like, the bingo cards have like 30 slots on them, so people that were doing it were like
Checking through,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a synergy
Going for a
group worth
blackout.
of smooches.
yeah. No.
Are people like boozing doing this as well, or?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was like, I remember 1 year after full moon.
That's probably for the best.
I remember
honestly.
1 year after full moon on the quad, I like went to full moon on the quad just to observe. Like, I had a boyfriend at the time, wasn't making out with anyone, but I ended up getting sick just like randomly afterwards, and like went into like the athlete doctor, and they're like, "Oh, you're like the 100th person we've seen today.
Yeah.
Like, full moon on the quad was this weekend.
Mono's running rampant.
We know what
right
you
now.
did." And I was like, "No, I swear."
They're like, no, not me.
But
so
yeah,
funny.
people get
That's
really
so-
sick after that event. So
That's crazy.
Do you guys have any traditions like that people wouldn't know about at Bama?
We've got so I think it's before the Auburn game. We create this massive pyre, like a funeral pyre, of like just a bunch of like wooden pallets just burning in the middle of our quad.
In front of Denny Chimes,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty.
That's really
That's
cool.
actually pretty cool. And this is gonna sound bad. Our Greek life is so dominant that you don't really participate in the school-wide things.
yeah,
Like if the school's having one of those dances or something like that, where it's like Marshmallow comes play or stuff like that, like you don't typically go to because you're just like, oh, like we do our thing. Like
Yeah, I would go to Marshmallow, but like
it was just a weird vibe though. Honestly, like it
Yeah.
wasn't as fun as it should have been. It
our
was
spring
like
concert, the
super nerf. Like they're like selling like Sprite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a
the
weird.
headliner for one of our spring concerts was 2 Chainz, and after that, I just never really paid attention to.
oh my gosh, we had 2 Chainz too.
Did you see him?
Yeah,
How was he?
he was like, we have like, he was alright. Like,
Yeah.
it was
I
fun.
mean,
It was
like,
a good time.
I didn't pay $40 to see 2 Chainz.
Oh no,
so-
ours was
Okay.
free.
Yeah,
Ours was
we
free.
have to pay because
Yeah,
for us there's
definitely not.
a school like sponsored one that they had Chance come, which was really cool. That was
That's
a
cool.
good one. That
A
one's
lot of
free.
Chicago kids too, so I thought was crazy.
Yeah, it was really cool. There's like a kind of a concert hall that we have, and then there's like the actual Chrysler Center, which is where the Michigan basketball team plays. And there's an organization called Music Matters at Michigan that like tries to like make money for music programs in Detroit and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Music for inner city kids in Detroit. So they kind of upcharge their concert a lot, but their headliners aren't as good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like people kind of
Yeah.
get drawn to the free one.
See, we just paid so much in dues that you'd have really good headliners at your
Right. You
Fraternity.
had some sweet artists.
So it's like you kind of just went to that because you didn't have to like push around. Like it was a small enough crowd that it was fun.
Yeah.
But one thing you're saying about Stanford that I actually love is like you guys seem like your students have a really good relationship with your administration. The fact that you get to use like the dining hall for
Yeah.
parties is
Yeah.
so much more normal. Like that's like kind of like fosters probably kids being like normal and responsible and not.
I like it
freaking
in
out.
terms
Like,
of
at
being
Alabama,
being
kids went
hands off.
crazy because you needed your own spot to like you know what I mean. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Right.
and it's just like you're kind of fooling nobody. You might
Well,
as well be like
Right.
watching these.
We
kids
might as well
figure
say
out.
it, but like your roommate kind of ruined your dining hall.
He did.
Did he not? Freshman year,
Dude, you're gonna have to remind me what you're talking about. After
he
this.
drove into it.
Oh no, he drove into the student union.
Oh my bad.
Oh my goodness.
Very similar. Honestly, that was the dining hall. That's where Chick-fil-A was. People were going to that. They were not eating our gross dining hall food.
Yeah. So the dining hall food is so bad that they all eat at their fraternities instead. Like no one buys.
Oh.
The vegetarians and the meat eaters all eat the same thing in the dining hall: cheese pizza. It's the only edible thing in that
Yeah.
whole place. It is
The options were really
Oh wait,
slim.
no, it's got cheese. Oh, I guess that's fine. They're not vegan. Yeah.
What else did they have besides pizza that was so bad?
So gross. Everything was just really gross. I don't even know what it was. They would try to like go for things like
It's like-
Asian food night, Italian food night, but it was like awful. Like
It's
they
also
never
the
hit the
eggs
mark
that
once.
you can
like,
tell are like from like a powder
Yeah.
or something like that.
oh
Like,
no,
like
they're like
something you add water
they
to
dissolve
and then
in your
cook.
mouth. Like you're just like it's
It's
gross.
like,
Like it was just like it was the worst food ever. No one got it.
So everybody seems to have won a national championship. What other sports won like while you were there? I know the soccer team had a
Yeah.
really
I didn't
good
know there
run.
was that many elite programs.
Oh yeah. Stanford has, since I've been, so when I went to Stanford and UCLA were tied for most national championships across all the sports in history.
Oh,
But
wow.
now we're
Wow.
up by like 8
Wow.
over UCLA.
Since
sick.
since you've been in school?
Mm-hmm.
That is so key.
Right on.
Yeah.
I love
You got
that.
3 of those.
Since I've been in school, I'm trying to think. Okay, women's volleyball has won. women's soccer, men's soccer, women's swimming and diving.
BB got a championship?
Yeah.
Now would be a good time to just show the people your bling that you brought us.
Yeah.
Well,
So
she got some.
for the people you're...
These are the rings. So I'll start with the smaller ones. So the reason why they're smaller is because we got to design them ourselves, and we thought that we were going to be wearing them around all the time.
So the whole team got the same
Right.
ring.
You didn't want it to be.
No,
super
we got to
flashy.
pick it. So we like customize it by like year, and then you have like my name. And then you can put something like we wrote like a team,
like
a
motto
team,
or something.
yeah, team mottos on the inside. But then this year we were like, we never wear these. Let's
Right.
get a
Let's
just
get
get
a
big
boy.
one.
Let's look for
So
it.
we got this giant one.
Nice.
What's
So
it have
this
on the
is,
side here?
it's got my number 8, KEEFE, and then it says Muchos Tempo, which was like a team joke
Muchos Tempo?
on the inside. Yeah.
Nice. What does muchos tempo mean?
It was just like
Much time.
our coach had a tattoo on his arm that he got with his wife that said muchos, like they say I love you muchos, so we just like made fun of it
Cute.
and then turned into Muchos Tempo, just like a
Tell me that
volleyball.
his ring has Muchos Tempo on it too.
Oh yeah,
That's
nice.
everyone's ring has Muchos Tempo on it. So yeah, these are the rings.
That's
They're pretty
awesome.
sweet.
Thanks for
You
bringing
guys
those
can
in.
try them if you want.
Dude,
I don't think they
let's
would
just
fit on me.
let's
but
just give it a little. This thing is
Give it-
sweet. This thing is fat.
Yeah, give the bling a look. Did you just kiss it, bruh?
Dude, I gotta kiss the ring. That's what they're there for. That's not the reason you wear rings.
True. Very cool.
So
Thank you for bringing those in.
Of course.
So we're kind of talked about the
Right.
powerhouse that is women's volleyball.
Right.
In stark contrast,
Right,
we've
so-
got men's volleyball who seem to have fallen on some harder times. You want
Yeah.
to talk about that?
In terms of like you're naming all the super successful sports, right? And then Stanford basically just gave their athletic program a massive slash. Like seemingly, I don't even
Why?
know what the percentage of sports was, and obviously men's volleyball was one of the big ones that got cut.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of friends of ours that are on the team and are starting petitions, trying to recruit alumni to donate money, and they're not seemingly making any progress towards getting the programming launched. Like what was that all about?
Yeah, so that came as a huge shock to us. Our team, the women's volleyball team and the men's volleyball team, are super close. One of my best friends is on the men's volleyball team. But, they didn't give a lot of reasoning for it aside from, just financial constraints due to COVID. And I think just looking forward, they decided that kind of it wasn't profitable and it was kind of too much of sucking too many resources. But at the same time, it's like the only sports, women's volleyball doesn't make money. Like the only sport at Stanford that makes money is football.
Sure.
So, I think too for men's volleyball, like they've won national championships in their program history. So it's just, it's really tough
Right.
to
Yeah.
cut sports that have been so successful. Yeah, and
Were
like,
there other teams that also got cut?
yeah.
Really?
So there were 11 or 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Which sports do you remember that were a part of that?
yeah, so in addition to men's volleyball, there was lightweight rowing, men's rowing, there was field hockey, lacrosse is still there. I'm trying to think, fencing. Yeah, there's several others that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Not to diss on the rest of these sports, men's volleyball seems like a really
Wrestling.
important
Wrestling.
sport
Yeah.
comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, nationwide, there's only, there's 400 or so, more than 400 D1 women's volleyball schools, but there's less than 100 men's volleyball schools total, like D1,
Gotcha.
2, or 3.
Right.
So it's just not as big, which is tough.
That's a bummer. I mean, I
there a
don't
lot
know
of-
the ins and out of it, but I imagine a school like Stanford would be able to figure it out if other schools
You would think.
do. You know
would
what I
think.
mean?
Like,
Right.
we have such a big endowment.
Yeah.
Right.
If freaking Cal is got all these programs and it's
Yeah.
a public school, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
tough. That's really
Yeah.
tough.
So do you think, in your humble opinion, is that them prioritizing some of their research labs or trying to keep the money in academia versus athletics? Is that kind of them making a big statement in what they're about? Because Stanford is obviously very premier in terms of academics.
Right.
They're the Ivy of the West.
Yeah.
So do you think that's what it's all about? It's just prioritizing we're an academic institution first.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's right to some extent. And then I've been getting a ton of emails about how they're cutting all of these professors' salaries. So it's really like a lot of cuts across
It's just hard
the board.
times.
It's just hard times, I think.
I guess it costs a lot of money to run a school at that level. I mean, maybe they've been overextending.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one could have predicted this.
Yeah, I know they've taken some money out of some labs too. So,
especially because I know like return to. It seems like I don't even know because my brother made the decision to do a gap year when he found out that there was going to be like a hybrid schooling in terms. He goes to the University of Wisconsin.
Okay.
So at Wisconsin, they send him this email. They're like, it's going to be hybrid. You're going to do your discussions in person, and all your lectures are going to be. You're going to do your discussions in lecture halls in person. Super separated.
Right.
And then your lectures are all going to be on Zoom. And he's like, paying out-of-state tuition. Somewhere upwards of like $50K to go there.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not worth the money. Like we all came home and did Zoom for a couple weeks. I know for a fact I would never ever pay to do a Zoom semester because like I didn't even sign on once when I was home for like 3 weeks. I couldn't do it, especially living on the West Coast and having classes on the East Coast. I didn't want to get up at like 7 a.m. to do that.
Yeah.
So it seems like they toss out this hybrid idea, bring people to campus, and now COVID is running rampant on college campuses right now, especially like Bama's having a huge issue. Bama's having trouble. Notre Dame,
we didn't have to name names, but yeah,
we've been talking to our friend John Bruner, who goes to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's having like a crisis, COVID crisis going on. So it just seems like a really tough time to,
I also think it's tough too because imagine if you're cutting sports, you're pulling money out of labs. The next inkling is to increase revenue, which is like tuition's probably going to get more expensive because you have to.
Michigan increased tuition by like 3%.
So you're getting an increase and you're getting less value.
Yeah,
exactly, dude. It's really like turning things on a head.
It's tough. It's a tough reasoning to follow. But I guess talking about COVID, how's your COVID gone? Moving away from just all this volleyball stuff. How's your COVID gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's been.
How's your COVID?
My COVID.
What kind of question is that?
The first few months.
You know what I'm asking though.
No,
like everyone knows what I'm asking.
Yeah, the first few months of COVID. So there's 6 people in my family, and we also have a family friend living in like our guest house. So that's 7. We had a teammate living with us. That's 8. We had my brother's girlfriend visiting for a month and a half. That was 9.
The KEEFE brood.
And then, and then Henry, my sister's fiance, slept at our house every other night.
Sure.
So there were 10 people in my house. And like...
It's packed house for these times.
House. My little sister was in high school. 3 of us were Stanford students. My teammate was a Stanford student. Like, we're all trying to be on the internet. Like... It was crazy.
Wi-Fi's crashing. Food. Your mom's like,
my mom
probably doesn't want to go to the market because of coronavirus, and now is like having to go like.
Your mom has to feed everybody, and they're all like monsters.
Oh my gosh! Like Henry eats for like 3. My brother eats for 3. Like it's just.
Yeah, your dad.
My poor mom. Yeah.
Wow.
Costco cards just like flying out of the wallet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gotta be going to Costco to feed those folks.
But things have settled down since then. I finished up school. Did an internship this summer.
Who'd you work for?
I worked for a private equity firm based in Palo Alto, Altamont Capital Partners.
Nice. What were you doing for them?
So I was kind of just doing like an analyst intern program. So I was like with a portfolio company that they owned, and then looking at a lot of food deals in like the frozen food space.
In the frozen food space?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so is that grind kind of a lot of Excel? Or are you on Zoom a lot? What did it look like in terms of like a remote internship?
Yeah, so it was a lot of Zoom and a lot of Excel. It was, I was on my computer from like 7:30 a.m. to like...
I didn't see Michaela.
Did you get
I thought Michaela
you had to get some blue light glasses or...
So my little sister got blue light glasses that she let me borrow, but they were like $10 and they didn't do anything. They weren't good. They weren't good ones.
You gotta get the bougie ones.
Yeah, exactly. I think you should invest in those.
I got a link, don't worry.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on the computer last summer. I got you. So tell me, describe your experience kind of going into this private equity world.
Yeah, so...
Give me a review.
In college, I studied poli-sci, and then I'm getting a master's in comm. I'm about to finish that up. So I wasn't expecting to go into finance, but I worked in a law firm last summer, and then kind of before deciding like whether or not I wanted to, make the investment and go to law school, I wanted to give finance a try.
Totally.
Just like, see if I liked it, see if I was good at it. I knew really nothing going in. So there was like a steep learning curve, which was great. I feel like I learned a lot. But I mean, yeah, virtual internship, especially one in like private equity is tough. It's a lot of time.
Especially where your MD or whoever just comes up, gives you like a rough instruction on what to do, and you're like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing.
I can imagine those
place.
internships are so hand off. They're like, yeah, just write up a report on this. And then you're just grinding for 8 hours.
It's hands off in person, which means I'm sure like over Zoom, you're like, oh my god.
Right. But like, you're just like, you're like, want to get to their spot where you can just be like, yeah, just like do this. You know what I mean? And then like your work's done for you and you just got to present it.
Yeah. It's tough when like kind of senior people will give you something like there's a meeting the next morning at like 8 a.m. and at 5 p.m. they're like, oh, hey, can you do this for me before the meeting starts? And you're like, oh yeah, this will just take 6 hours. No worries.
This will only take the rest of my night.
Or like the workday's over and you're just like, you have the presentation for tomorrow, right? And you're like, I got it. I'll do it.
Through the grapevine, Claire was always bragging about you. Honestly, she was like, Michaela's working so hard right now. Like, every time I go over there, like, she's just working all the time.
I felt so bad. Like, Claire would come over and I would just be like, hi, like, hug, like, eat 2 bites of food. Okay, back to work.
Well, it's a tough experience, but honestly, like, that is, like, you should be proud for giving it your all, because that's not an easy task to do.
Yeah.
You know, there's like kids that are spending 4 years in probably a lot of high school, like really into that stuff.
Totally.
Who still are burdened by the workload, you know? So like that's an awesome.
How did you manage trying to learn the industry from afar? Like, you know, did you have any relationship with your coworkers? Where were they based? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, so I had like they gave all the interns a mentor who was like a first year, second year analyst. My mentor, he was awesome. He was based in Arizona. You know, he would be working from the Bay Area usually, but during COVID, he was quarantining in Arizona, and he was super helpful just in terms of like, you know, if I had a question about something, I could like schedule a Zoom meeting with him, and he would walk me through it. But it was tough, I think, not being in the office and like, you know, just like dumb stuff, like when you want to learn how to do something more quickly in Excel, like when you're in the office you can just watch someone else like be like, oh, you just pressed
like turn to the guy and just say like, what's this?
Or just ask someone for advice. You're like, dude, now I gotta send this guy Zoom and like
you're spinning your own gears too. All of a sudden a task is now taking 3 hours, you know? Instead of asking a question about like what to do, like and turn to them, you gotta like Slack message them,
like, or like send like a formal email and just so that was tough. But we're 1 week out, and
are you feeling good?
Freedom.
Yeah. I'm sure Sweet Freedom's like even sweeter now. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you got a whole new lease on summer.
So what is the plan moving forward? Like you put a you know, exclamation point on your volleyball career. Did you ever think about going pro, or were you always thinking you wanted to go into the, you know, private sector or go get a job?
I always knew after playing volleyball for like so many years and spending so much time, I knew that after college I was ready to be done with it. I mean, as fun as it was, like it definitely was a grind. And so I think like I was ready to not be like lifting weights like every single day and like in the gym every day, just kind of like chill out.
You've been doing it for so long. Like you've been competitive.
You gotta give your back a break.
Yeah,
seriously.
exactly.
Will and I are at phases in life where like we just like playing beer diet because we get to compete. You know what I mean? Like that sounds. Trust me, that sounded pretty bad. I know what you mean, but like. It's just nice to play a sport. It's just like I did intramurals casually in college. You should see what we pull off out there.
We make some athletic plays.
But it's just nice to like have some form of competition because for us it's been since like junior high school.
Well, that's why
it's been a good 6-year break.
When we moved down, dude, we need to like find you know, a gym to play at or like get some rec soccer games going.
Totally.
Like, I'm so down to do that.
I got bunnies. Let's play pickup.
Finn can done.
No, it is. I'm sure it's a totally different story for you. Where you're like, finally, like.
No, it's been fun to just like, you know, even just like working out on my own. It's been so nice to like not have to follow like a weights program. Just be like, oh, like if I'm tired, I can stop. Like it doesn't matter.
I don't have to go like 100
Are you struggling? Are you struggling realizing that?
I do, just because I think that's kind of my personality.
Yeah, I'm sure it's ingrained habit.
It is ingrained to kind of just like push through.
Yeah, like I got this.
Yeah,
run 6 miles, like.
Yeah. But
the other day I'm talking to Michaela and she's like, like I just walked 8 miles today on accident. Like I just kept going. Like I was like, oh my god, like who does that?
That's so far. How long of a walk is that? Like 2 hours?
Yeah. 4 miles an hour.
Like Monica and back.
Yeah.
That's nice.
What
I wish I, just spent my time doing something cool like that.
I'm sure that perseverance though will serve you well though. Are you still thinking about doing a law school track or?
I am. I'm thinking about it. I know I want to work first and just
Right.
kind of make sure that that's what I want to do.
Yeah. So we know that Caitlin and her fiance have already moved out to New York. We know you kind of have a plan to do the same. So maybe let the people know what your near future has in store.
Yeah, so in a week and a half, I'll be moving to New York.
So soon?
I know.
No, I didn't know that.
I know.
That's so sad.
But I might only be there till Christmas. So you might see me soon.
I don't want to wish greedily, but that'd be nice
Yeah.
to see
I
you
know.
again.
Claire talks about it all the time.
Yeah,
but
no,
I know. I feel so bad for Claire. All of her friends.
Well, it was crazy. 'cause
Didn't
when
Emily moved
she's
too?
in Chicago,
Oh,
so like
man.
when we were first looking at coming back to LA, I was the one who was like, I want to go somewhere else, because like all of you guys were like, you want to be in San Francisco. Drew was like, you were like San Francisco or Chicago. Drew was like San Francisco, and everyone was kind of just like not going to be here. And I was like, well, I'm young, I could be somewhere else, which is I'm sure where you're at right now, But Claire was totally different. Claire was like, all you guys I think looked like you were probably going to be back in LA, and Claire was like, no, we got to be in LA. This is where we're from. This is our home. And it sucks because it's totally flipped. Like this
now
is
your
totally
friends
flipped.
are here, yeah.
And you guys are
We're
totally
all
gone, so you
leaving.
have to come back.
I know.
Well, we're gonna serve as anchor base. Once we're down in Venice, that'll be the spot.
We're totally
That'll be the
expanding.
spot,
New circles.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So you're moving out to New York with them,
I moved to New York. I'll be living with Caitlin.
which the apartment looks super cool.
Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't have to do any of the work on that. So,
she found the apartment. She moved in.
I'll be flying into a fully furnished, set up my bed. Like,
Your mom's already come and moved you
I'm
guys in.
so
basically.
excited. Yeah.
That's
So why
awesome.
haven't you gone down there sooner?
I just kind of wanted to spend a week or two after my internship ended, just enjoying being here and not packing all my clothes or flying across, just chill out for a second.
Right.
Yeah.
And enjoy LA for a second. If you've been working so hard, get a nice tan. Go flex on the New Yorkers.
Exactly. I just got sunburned today.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. That's a base tan right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
the classic burn tan.
Have to
It'll
burn
be there
first.
tomorrow.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm white and I have to burn first.
Yeah,
so.
it's got.
I always get a little red the first time. Right?
Yeah.
These are bad lights though. We're all tanner than we think. So now that you're gonna be in New York, you said you've got one more year for masters.
One more quarter. So,
wow. So did you do an accelerated program then?
Yeah, I just got it done quickly. I took 20 units every quarter at Stanford, which was tough.
Beast.
But
And
you took 20 units.
Shut up, Michaela. You're way too impressive. I'm like,
stop,
God.
stop.
How did you take 20? And you added
I had a semester where I took 12. I said it. Okay, fine.
But we were on quarter system, so I think we take more units than you guys.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for us, the standard credit would be 15.
Okay, us too.
The graduation track is if you do 15 a semester, you'll graduate.
That's ours as well.
Okay, for us, if you do 15 a quarter, you'll graduate.
So 20 is
20.
insane.
God, you're so.
So 20 is 25 classes.
Yes.
Okay. 5 classes is gnarly, dude. That is wild. Okay. Well,
This is
thank
why
you.
we have you on the pod. This
Yeah.
is totally why you have
This
us
is,
on the pod.
you're just blowing our minds
So
this whole
before
time.
we dip, I do want to ask, what are you going to be doing in New York besides studying? I mean, you're going to have free time. Right?
Yeah. So I decided after this internship, I want a few months where I do not have to use my brain.
That's
So I decided to be
deserved.
a part-time nanny.
Awesome.
Believe it or not.
That's going to be so cool.
There's apps there's kind of Tinder apps for nannies. Is that how you're gonna
Bro,
find your
don't
client?
compare it to Tinder. What kind of comparison is
I mean,
that?
dude, I've seen it on the other end, and they're literally swiping.
I'm not gonna lie, it's called Bambino, and
You know what it is.
I'm in the spot right now where I'm thinking about Jordan Bambino.
We need the money.
Hey, babysitters are a rare commodity.
Mannies, bro.
I could
You
use
gotta-
the
You're a
cash.
friendly face. though.
People want mannies, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, but my aunt has a friend there who she connected me with, and she has 2 kids who need a
Would
nanny
you be
slash
working for
tutor.
what kind of family are we talking about?
Never met them.
Have you ever? Okay, so I told her to watch this movie called The Nanny Diaries, which is this anthropology student in New York in college needs the money, so she ends up working for this Upper East Side family, and the movie is a comedy that kind of becomes her thesis on anthropology, humans living in the Upper East Side, their parenting styles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she kind of describes them like they're animals in the wild. And it's super funny, and it's just kind of
I
always
gotta
what I
watch
thought
Yeah.
of the nanny experience. Your mom and I actually talked about it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. So you'll have to fill me in. I feel like that's
Right.
going to be a very unique
We're gonna have to-
adventure in
well,
its own way.
In all honesty, Finn was like, dude, I wanted to have Michaela on after she had some like nannying stories to
Yeah.
tell us, because that would be hilarious.
I feel like
So
they're going to be
we're
good.
gonna have to have you
I got to feel it.
have to have you on again when you come back.
Oh,
A part two. We got more to cover.
Well, that was really fun to talk about your whole career and how you know your aspirations and everything. That was really cool, really insightful. We're gonna wrap it up with our only recurring segment on the show. It's called the What's Up Doc, where you give a documentary, book, movie, honestly whatever you want, sort of
We're
recommendation.
really opening things up.
We're
in
opening
this
things up because we
episode.
realize the documentary field is small.
We're realizing that maybe
And-
we watch too much television.
And
So-
in general, like, you don't want to just throw out a documentary you've seen. You want to recommend a good one.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So, do you have any content in general that you would suggest anybody?
Yeah, so I would say I watched. Have you guys heard of The Handmaid's Tale?
I have. My mom's
not.
actually watching it right now.
It's okay. So I'm trying. It's on Hulu,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very disturbing. But if you're into dystopian
Yeah.
stuff, would definitely give it a try. It's basically about it's in like a few years in the future when basically the idea is that
What, like 2021?
Yeah.
like 20
It's 2020. It's gnarly.
like maybe 2030, 2035 or
Okay,
something.
too close for comfort.
And the environment's gotten so polluted that like most women can't have children anymore.
Oh,
And there's only
shit.
like 1 in 500 women can have kids, so they're like a super rare commodity, and like everyone
minority
tries
group.
to like steal them and like
gnarly.
force them to have kids, and like this whole thing. It's
Damn.
it's like this
So it's
religious.
like a
That is-
power kind of.
Yeah.
That is really
complex.
dystopian. I hope that.
Honestly, wildly unique story though.
Very
That's
unique
a good
story.
storyline, and I'm sure it touches on some like modern day issues like women's rights,
Yeah.
Yeah.
pollution,
there's
climate
always-
change.
Politics, religion, all that.
Right.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
That's a
interesting
cool
canvas for all that.
recommendation.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
Handmaid's Tale, check that out.
Finn, what about you?
So I watched mine a couple hours ago. Actually, I did my homework for this What's Up Doc because I've been cut off on my heels these last couple times.
He always shows up and he's like, I forgot that's our only segment.
That's our only segment.
He always forgets that's the
I
only
enjoy
thing.
conversing with our guests too much, I guess. So the documentary I watched is called Seed: An Untold Story.
See, there's a colon.
So it was really interesting, and it talks about something that you would never really think was a problem: seed diversity. So apparently, in 20th century, 94% of seeds have gone extinct, which is nuts. And the reason you don't think about it is because you think wheat, vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got to think. I think there was like something like 588 cabbage, like varieties of cabbage. Now there's like, I spouted that number out. I don't know much about cabbage. Like 588 cabbage. Now it's like 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like crazy. Like
I
how.
know. I saw on Zac Efron's thing on Netflix when he had like the environmental thing. One of the things he did was in Lima, Peru. They had like one of the world like potato reserves is where they went, and
Seed bank.
Yeah, they outlined that same thing where they had like a frozen, like basically if a nuke like blows up the earth or something, like they have different like seed banks across the world to help preserve different species of food.
So that's the interesting thing about it is the potato is one big example, and they're like the potato is why O is the largest section of the directory in like Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So why 1 million Ireland like Irishmen starved?
Right.
It's because like they were all eating one kind of potato, and they had no genetic diversity, and boom, famine happened. So like that's one of the consequences to only having that little.
Mm-hmm.
But they went into the politics of it,
Right.
which was nuts. There's big food biotech companies that are actually patenting seeds. And seeds, of course, every generation of them will have they'll be different than the previous one, right? And they'll have patents on all of those seeds as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like they own patents on naturally occurring things.
Yeah.
And it's
Crazy.
really gnarly because there's a quote, and it's like, if you want to control a country, you control oil. If you want to control the world, you control food. And it's like these biotech companies are like really abusing their rights. And for example, there's one called Monsanto, and the amount of overlap that Monsanto has in the U.S. government, like company employees have in the U.S. government, is crazy.
Wow.
And they're kind of purposely squashing genetic diversity and biodiversity because it hurts their bottom line.
Yeah, because that's
not
crazy because they have a interest in there being less seed diversity.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, that's wild because like as an asset, like if you have the patent and own all the genetics for a certain amount of seeds, you kill off all the other ones.
Yeah.
You have a monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the whole idea?
Exactly, and it's like they're kind of they're very much monopolizing the food industry because all of these people that are caring about it and talking about it, they're all either molecular biologists, botanists, like botology, botanology.
You had it, botanist.
Yeah, botanist. And maybe some people that read a little bit too much Thoreau and Walden's Pond. For them good. You know what I mean?
In
and are
terms of
living
conservationism.
independent lives where they farm everything.
Yeah.
And these people are really taking it upon themselves, and Native American tribes, because they have that ingrained cultural root to corn and these foods. It was startling though. You see images of food that you've never seen before, like corn that is like rainbow colored, that just genuinely grows in the wild.
That's cool. Yeah.
Just there's like hundreds of different types of potatoes and corn. There's like potatoes that have like hot pink like insides.
Right.
Yeah.
Just weird stuff you've never seen before, and I was like, it just like it feels odd like being like a human being and like having a good grasp on like potatoes and vegetables and like not knowing and apparently only being exposed to 6% of what was there.
Right.
Right.
It's
That's cool. That's a really good recommendation.
Yeah. So check it out.
So the last one is kind of going to be a funny story to wrap up with, because I'm just going to say, as my What's Up Doc, I'm just going to say The Last Dance, because it kind of cues into a story that we wanted her to say, but we kind of missed it at the beginning.
Well done.
So she was alluding to the fact that her dad played for the Jazz back in the day, and he does have a pretty cool story involving the point at which the documentary came to the Jazz, where it's alluded that he kind of lied about the guy who supposedly brought him the pizza before the flu
pizza,
game, right? The guy came out and defended himself, saying I would never do that or whatever.
I'm not poisoning this guy.
So what's that funny story with your dad in that series?
Yeah, so I guess recently I've been telling my dad not to go on Twitter since.
Does your dad have a Twitter?
He doesn't, but my brother kind of usually lets him go on his just to kind of keep up with sports and stuff. But my dad's been getting a lot of hate because he didn't start in the finals when they played.
Didn't he start in every other season game?
Mm-hmm. And he played a lot. So he was guarding Scottie Pippen. I think he had.
That's so cool. Oh
yeah.
My God.
He was having kind of a tough game at some
Sure.
points, getting kind of pushed around, and people were not happy that he was playing. So
50 years later.
50 years later, people are not over it.
Yeah. So he was
Who told him about
in the
this?
footage that was on The Last Dance?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So cool.
That's
so
so
who told
cool.
him about this? Did you who broke
The
the
Twitter
news
part?
to Mr.
Right.
Keefe? Yo, you're trending.
Oh, I did.
Did you really?
Why would you let him
debate-
go out of sight, out of mind? Does he care at all about what people think at this point?
No, he doesn't.
That's
He has thick skin. He thought it was kind of funny.
That's good. Just rub it off.
Yeah.
So that is super cool that your dad got to play in that legendary game.
Yeah.
Where I think wasn't that in '98 that series?
Yeah,
That
50
sounds
years
about
ago was a
right.
gross overestimation.
'98.
right.
Yeah.
Could've been.
No, that's when we
When we were born.
When we were born.
By my math, it was 21 years ago.
Yeah, she was born in Utah.
I was born in Utah, so it could have been then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah.
This has
Yeah,
been absolutely awesome. Sharing your knowledge about the game of volleyball, sharing some of your success stories. That is really, really cool. So how can the people follow you or support Stanford Volleyball? How would you promote yourself right now?
Yeah, I would say, if you want to check out my Instagram,
Check out her LinkedIn.
Instagram is
Yeah.
@ Michaela KEEFE.
Yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn @ Michaela KEEFE.
Her name's Michaela Keefe.
Yeah, my name's Michaela KEEFE, in case you didn't get
The
that.
title
Any
of it.
Slovenian stalkers out there that are looking
Yeah.
for
Please
a
don't
girl?
contact me.
Yeah, do not follow Michaela KEEFE if that's you.
She will sell towels.
Yeah, no, but yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn,
Sweet.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, braving this hot garage.
I know.
If you guys don't know, it's pretty steamy in here.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in, guys. And we hopefully will see another episode with Michaela If she
would
chooses
love
to come back
would
to
love
LA.
to.
We'll have
Yeah.
a lot more updates. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Will
Yeah,
and Finn.
thank you
Peace,
so
guys.
much for watching.
Thanks for watching.